Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Soul Deep Science podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Copey, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, the founder of Psychomorelytics, Dr. G.C. Dillsaver. And here, in this podcast, we seek to restore the image of God in individuals, in marriages, and families. So, Dr. Dillsaver, I just want to welcome you back. Before we get started, is there anything that you wanted to say to open up with, or give us any updates on anything?
No, except today's we're talking a little bit about terminology. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to discuss some of the terms contained within psychomorelytics.
Okay. So, kind of combine this with the supervision, if you don't mind. I think that might be a good way to knock these podcasts out, Kyle. So if you don't mind being a casebook example for everybody.
I'll be the guinea pig. I'll be the scapegoat, whatever you need me to be.
Awesome. So, but really I'm going to ask this question. What was the first thing you did today that was psychomorelytic? In other words, let's use psychomorelytic in a sentence, and give me a specific example of that happened today for you.
Sure. Wow.
The first thing that happened.
First thing that happened. Wow, really put me on the spot. I guess I would say making the decision to get out of the bed in the morning. Maybe we'll use that as an example. I mean, I didn't feel like getting up, but
why not?
Well, it was that. I mean, I had the passion there, the feeling of wanting to stay in bed, the thought that I didn't get enough sleep, that I wanted more. So I had the bodily sensation telling me to stay in bed.
And that would be concupiscence, right?
Yeah, it would be an inclination to, because it would have been sinful if I wouldn't have gotten up and gone to work.
Well, concupiscence, in the sense that not even as a sinful thing, but as an inclination, you want bodily pleasures, and that can be inordinate. But that's why they always say it's an ordinate concupiscence, what have you. But I mean, but there's something good about that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, your body is pushing you towards a necessity, which is sleep, right?
Right. And even maybe it's that you're a married man like you are, and your wife's in that bed too. So so you can have that this bliss. You're looking at the world out there, so thorns and thistles, right?
Yeah, I want to be in the warm comfort next to my matriarch there. The hearth of the home right there.
I don't know if you can have a matriarch and a patriarch, but anyway,
that's a different show. That is a different show. I'm sorry for using that term, but let's just forget that.
You're politically corrected.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's my PC culture coming through. I was raised in the '90s. What can you expect?
Yeah, I mean, a woman's more than that. I mean, a patriarch is a matriarch. That really does the search of womanhood, I think, just because she's so much more than that. I mean, deeper. Anyway, but go ahead.
Sure. Okay.
So you laid in bed. So why did you get out of bed then?
Well, if I was to trying to apply psychomorelytics to it, so maybe I'll start with receiving the real. Can we start there?
Well, no, I don't want you to revise this. Okay, I want you to show exactly how you got out of bed today. Why you got out of bed? What was in your mind when you made the choice? Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew I had responsibilities. I knew I had to get up at a certain time to get ready to make it to work. So that would be my first inclination.
Okay. So you think how do you use psychomorelytics in a sentence to describe that?
Well, kind of going back to what I said, I think that would be choosing the good, right? That's a truth that I've apprehended, and a good that I'm using my will to pursue.
Yes. How is that psychomorelytic? So you say, I chose to get out of bed. it was psychomorphic when I got out of bed, when I chose to get out of bed. That's what you can say, right? I made a psychomorphic choice to get out of bed. Was that what you would say?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I take back my hurrah and I say, get down and give me 20. Pride.
Tell me what giant mistake I've made.
Well, what is the psychomorphic process?
So
the actual psychomorphic action, what actually happens?
Well, again, my thought would be going back to that process of receiving the real and choosing the good.
So then what happens? Psychomorphic. When you do that, okay, that's not it's psychomorphic. But what happens when you do that in the psychomorphic process? It doesn't always happen when you do that, but it does in the psychomorphic process. What happens?
Well, my next thought would be that because I want to eventually connect it to embracing the cross. Embracing.
Don't go hiding behind your religion there.
I'm making a jump here. I'm making too far of a jump. I know that.
Yeah. Religion, the last refuge of a scoundrel.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's break that down. What is that?
There's a cross of reality, right? The cross of reality. So yeah. It's not always the cross of Christ. So what is the cross? When you use the cross of reality, what about that cross?
Well, it is. It's a, as you would say, it's one of those vicissitudes of life, right? My body's pulling me one way, but I know, there's a juxtaposition there between something I know to be good, but it's going to be arduous to get there.
That's the. So you chose to get out of bed. You chose to get out of bed. Why again? Because you had to go to work.
First reason was to go to work.
So you're in bed. You're looking at I don't want to get out of bed. It's cold, whatever. It's humiliating. The flesh. I don't want to feel that. And so but you chose to accept that humiliation of the flesh of getting out of bed because you didn't want to avoid. You want to avoid the great humiliation of getting fired. See, so it wasn't really a psychomorphic process at all, child. And it was really just saying, hey, when push comes to shove, okay, this humiliation now, has become greater and it caused me to move and take action. See, and that's how most people go through life. So, so the different process would be, so a real psychomorphic process, then get up in the morning would say, really having no, when you say, okay, let me say, if you get up in the morning and you say, you wake up, you're out of this, this state of, if you will, all defenses are down, you're kind of really open to reality, that receiving the real, because why? You've been still asleep. Sometimes this happens with people in the middle of the night, they'll wake up, what have you, but to lay there and then to be really open to the real is going to have reality come, crashing down upon you. So this day is another day of existence. Here you lay, a weak, fragile animal made in God's image. So we can go on and on, right? But again, the cross of existence. Life is a meat grinder. Now, and that's even in the best of circumstances. You should having that ground. If you're open to reality, then you're open to reality too. I'm going to go out there and enjoy my life and have today's a good day, or I can thank God I have peace and I can and that's really what and live the kingdom, obviously, and flourish as a human being. But see what it takes though, to really flourish as a human being, is to take that not to be motivated just by our pride and self-love, because if we are, then we're manipulated by our pride and self-love as well. Is to be motivated by a love of something that's greater than we are. And that's the psychomorphic process, when it means it's a sacrificial love, a love that means my pride and self-love will be diminished. And I will decrease and mature that in the image of God, because of that rational volitional nature, which is some of the functionality of God's nature, will dominate my egoistic, prideful passions of self-love.
So it sounds like what you're saying in the example that we're talking about with getting out of bed, that even our ambitions, even our desire to fulfill just some of our general responsibilities, that could be an occasion for us to manifest our pride and self-love?
Well, where the pride and self-love, it's not a question of manifesting the pride and self-love or not. So I'm not saying that, because that's all right. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad that for you getting out of bed is, a relatively simple process. But it's not always for some people, Sometimes, that reality is really hard. And it's like, okay, I'm jumping out, I get out of bed, and I'm falling into the abyss. And that may well be the very reality that they're facing. And so, you're a depressed population, if you will, or may have a sensitivity to that, and I think we talked about this. There was the first show it out, but
that's okay. We can talk about it again.
One of the studies that shows that depressed populations are more in touch with reality than non-depressed populations. So, the abyss of existence, the big grinder of mortal existence, is something that we all should say yes to and accept, to mature. And then this existence of one's particular circumstances, of course, can be hellacious, nothing less than hellacious. So, but the beauty is that one can say yes to that at a very deep level and mature, recognize that God's ways are not our ways. And so I'm getting up out of bed is saying yes to existence, because that's the real question. Can I say yes to existence? I don't like it. Would I rather choose? If I had the choice, would I choose not to exist? Would I say, yeah, God, why you create anything at all? Would I say, yeah, that's a good option? It's kind of a interesting to think about it. Kind of a brain tease, because obviously, if you don't exist, you can't even imagine not existing. You can't imagine. But
I think very few people get there. I think some people have come to that conclusion. Like you look at Friedrich Nietzsche, and he arguably went insane because he kind of went down that path.
What path?
Of staring into the abyss of existence, and for him, I think he came to the conclusion of, absurdity. Existence is absurd, and there's nothing out there for me. So it's.
So I said, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, of course he isn't staring into the abyss of existence. Of course not. He's afraid of it. Because when you stare into the abyss of existence, you stare into it and then you jump into it. The secular existentialists don't do that. They're afraid to do that. Because life is meaningless, life is absurd. I can't do that. So they scamper back to whatever. Either kill themselves with absurdity. Life is meaningless. It makes no sense. But they're not leaping into that abyss. They don't say, well, you know what? But I'm still going to be a seeker of truth. Even if it means falling through this abyss. Even if it means what? yes, me being annihilated in my pride and self-love and my turn to self, and that's what suicide is. It's me, myself, and I. According to other existentialists, Art. He says, hell's other people. No, as he knows. Pray God, he does not know. Have mercy. So he, that's the hell is me, myself, and I. And so that's, because when it's all about me, that brings on depression, the symptoms of depression, and of course the depressive act of suicide. I reject existence. I reject the fact that you created me, God. How dare you? And see, and it's true though. It's true though that God, if you really know the God of reality, any of the God of Christianity, he created me why? Yeah, for his great manifest glory. So I exist for him, to be a living holocaust unto the Lord, to be a greater manifestation of his infinite glory. So that's the God I have to say yes to. And it's absolutely humiliating, of course. I exist for him. In the Christian dispensation, I exist to magnify him. To be the soul that magnifies him. So no longer I live, but he lives in me. So that's, I do rebel against that. I will not serve. God is God, I am not. The rebellion of the angels, who were there, Raza Tabula, pure intellects, created, and God impacted them. Reality impacted them. The real I am impacted them, their intellects. And their cognitive responses, they knew that they were not.
And some chose to embrace that reality, and some chose to fight against that reality.
Yes. Some chose to say yes to that. The holy angels, Michael, who was like God, that name that is the name of humility. Who could be like God? It's absurd. They said, God is God. I am God, and I am not. Praise God. But they said yes to their I am not. They said yes to their nothingness, to their creatureliness, to their deficiency. And praise God at the same time. So they never turned away from him. And in that moment, if I may do some speculative theology here, at that moment, though, then those holy angels, in their Imago Dei, fully matured. They didn't have to die to their private self-love, they had none, but they fully matured in their Imago Dei in that receptive love. They made that act of sacrificial love, saying yes to their nothingness and God's allness. And then at that moment were divinized, becoming souls that magnified the Lord. Because in fulfill the vocations, their full vocation in God, to magnify him in their souls, just like man is also called to. And so, whereas the fallen angels, and I am not, and they rebelled against their deficiency and the fact that they were not God, just like Adam and Eve. And that rebellion it's called the apostasy. You turn from God to self-love. The turn is the pride. That's the prideful apostasy to self-love. And that's, so the whole process, the psychomoralic process then is going to be the reverse of that. It's going to be anything that abnegates the pride and self-love is going to be psychomoralic. But of course, the abnegation is so it is humiliations, but it's humiliations that are said yes to in a life-giving way, and humiliations that then are able to abnegate the pride and self-love and allow the Imago Dei to respond to anything, even to the ills of humiliations, in a prudent manner.
So just to kind of wrap up for people using our example, so let's say you had someone, maybe unlike me, who really struggles with getting out of bed. It's a real problem for that person. What
But
would
you can use
be,
me as an example.
so what would be a good mindset to have? So, I'm always
By the way,
looking
Kyle, I may say maybe a little parenthetical here, but so of course, Kyle, you're Eastern time and I'm Mountain time. So so you're 2 hours ahead of me. So of course you always want these early morning shows. I'm just like, well, anyway. So but go ahead.
no, it's it. So I'm just to give folks out there some sort of practical mindset. If you are struggling with waking up in the morning, what could be the first thing that you think of, that you should think of when you wake up in the morning?
So this is ask the doctor time.
The first thing you should think
of the first thing you should think of is going to bed earlier. That's what I would say.
Some practical.
8 hours of sleep. Yeah. Yes, but no. If you're saying that, if you're at that point, normally people that are either doing the psychological process already and you're saying yes to that, or if you really are struggling to the point where it's you're in touch with this, there's a future or a day that is so ominous that you lack the courage to get up. And again, there's various forms of courage. Some people don't have the courage to say, okay, I'm going to get up to avoid greater humiliation. Okay, that's all dependent on your pride and self-love. And that's all depending on acquired virtue. But there is a deeper way that's totally in accord with our Christian faith as well. And that is saying, okay, today, whatever happened, yes, I could be annihilated today. This is what it is. But I'm going to say yes to this because this is reality. This is, and I really honestly, Kyle, as I go here and I'm saying this to you, and as I know when I work with people in psychoanalytics, and they can be lifelong Catholics, they can be professed monks and nuns, priests, bishops, but when you're saying yes to this kind of thing, you're saying yes to the reality of crucifixion on the natural level, that life's a meat grinder. It just, the faith is a gift that you run to Christ crucified, and that faith grows deeper and it's a conversional process. So that is the holy faith, because the holy faith, like the maturation process, is supposed to lead us deeper to reality. In fact, holy faith leads into the heart of reality. We find Christ crucified. Again, that's why Catholicism being different than any other religion, because other religions help us cope with reality. I'm saved and going to prosper, or you do this or that, and then you get your reward in heaven. Yes, and absolutely, Catholics fail here horribly. When they should have the fullness of the gospel, but they don't. But that's all. That's or towards self, etc. Acquired virtue, delayed gratification, and even opiatic belief system that helps us, cope with reality. But that's not true Christianity. True Christianity allows you into the full depths of reality, gives the grace to have the courage to do that. And that grace comes from love. That courage comes from love. Because all love, perfect love casts out all fear. And so even on the natural level, within that love, a person has to say yes to reality. Why? To say yes because it's real. It's good. What's all we can say. He has to say yes to God. On the natural level, you have to love God, because what else? Because there is nothing else. And that's why you have people that hate so much that they're going to kill themselves or others. So on the natural level, we have to say yes to reality, because it's all there is. It's all that is. It's all that can be possibly be good. And God, no matter what, is good. Because what is good? The good is the real. The good is anything that exists, being, the true. And that all hinges from what? The supreme being. I am. So just the human intellect has to posit that. So we don't really have to posit knowledge that God exists. we have to posit that God is all that can possibly be good. Now, is this what if you and I were just crazy for believing in this kind of stuff? Okay, who knows? Our human intellects, maybe this is all some sort of bizarre dream or something. But so be it. So you're saying that my ideal of God or the true good and everything else is greater than that actual God, right? Which seems absurd as well. So be it. Again, we seek truth, we seek the truth, and the holiness, and that's why I'm Catholic, because it's real. I don't want to believe in something that's false, and God forgive us Catholics, for promoting a false gospel. But that's a subject of another time.
I like what you said there, that our ideas of God, we can't possibly have the hubris to think that our ideas of God are actually greater than God himself. But, I think that's part of our selfishness, is to where we have the temptation to think that we can exhaustively understand everything, right?
Yeah. Well, when God is he so other? And again, that the basic foundation of the human intellect must be God exists. That means, practically, but what that means is, for the human intellect, as it works, unless it falls into total absurdity and into madness like Nietzsche or whoever, or Sartre, is going to be that you're going to have to say that this existence, this realm that I experience, cannot have existed in and of itself for all eternity. It cannot have made itself. There's nothing in this that is whose essence is existence is essence. So nothing in this realm has within it existence as essence. We know that. It's absurd. That's absurd to think that. So the human intellect posits there must be something totally other. If that's a totally other, beyond our comprehension, but it has to be something totally other outside this whole realm, whose essence is existence. Yeah, we must posit that.
That's the logical conclusion.
Scientific and logical. Absolutely, it's not belief at all. It's knowledge.
Yeah, the atheistic model is faith. That's blind faith right there.
That's blind faith. Absolutely. So I'm going to believe this. I'm going to deny the existence of a God, even though it's totally absurd. This belief's totally absurd, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, and again, it is based on the pride, the need to. If I cannot calculate something beyond my ability to control, I don't want. It doesn't exist. So, but yes, that's where we are. So it's psychoanalytic process. That's the process of maturation, and it takes it's ego-abnegating. The one thing about it, though, is it's a way to really undergo a transformative process without pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. It's for those of us who are able to say yes to our weakness and our foolishness, and in doing that, be receptive to reality, choose assent to the truth, choose the good, and undergo the psychoanalytic process, which brings about, of course, good in our hearts and soul, the dominance of the truth and good, and of course in our relations as well. But again, and that's the natural basis for what? The Christian vocation, transformation of his soul into Christ, and to bring about the kingdom.
Okay, so when I get up tomorrow morning, I'm going to say yes to reality, knowing that I quite possibly could fail 1,000 times, but my assent to that is what's important.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly the practical point right there. You say, Yeah, I'm not trying to psych myself up. I'm not giving myself a pep talk, what have you. I'm saying, you know what, today, today could be total humiliation, failure, sorrows. I say, yes, for love you, Jesus. And you crucified, you embrace Christ crucified, and that, no matter what, see, even in our deepest, most dismal failures, even our sinfulness, if we say yes to the humiliation of sorrows, we not only do the sin and do the harm, the evil, but we actually bring about a superlative good. That's the beauty of the cross, of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Very good. All right, I think we're just about out of time, Dr. Dilsaver. I want to thank you again for joining me on this episode, and we look forward to continuing this podcast in the next episode. And I just want to remind folks out there, our viewers, our listeners, that our website is souldeepscience.com. And in the fall of 2023, we are opening our online institute, the Institute of Psychomoralitics, where you can study this great model, this great conceptualization with us. So we encourage you to visit our website, sign up to start taking the courses there, and God bless you, Doc. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close out?
No, just peace be with you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dilsaver. We'll talk to you next time. God bless.